everybody. I'm going to get started on the actual test for the web stream, which means I probably will not be able to answer you on ping because I'm now holding a phone handset in my hands. So to begin the test, I will read from our Google homepage about our corporate information. Founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin named the search engine they built Google, a play on the word Google, the mathematical term for a 1 followed by 100 zeros. The name reflects the immense volume of information that exists and the scope of Google's mission, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. When you visit www.google.com or one of the more than 150 other Google domains, you can find information in many different languages and translate between them. Check stock quotes and sports scores. Find news headlines and look up the address of your local post office or grocery store. You can also find images, videos, maps, patents, and much more. With universal search technology, you can often find all of these things combined in one query. Of course, there's a lot of information in the world that's not yet online, so we're also working to get more of it digitized. I'm being interrupted, so we're going to hold up the test for one moment. Please stand by, and we'll continue the test shortly. Okay, it seems that we can continue the test. So back to what we were saying. We also know that wherever you search the web, you want it to be as fast as possible, with all your favorite websites at your fingertips. So we offer software like Google Toolbar and Google Chrome to help you browse the web quickly and easily. Search is how Google began, and it's at the heart of what we do today. We devote more engineering time to search than to any other product at Google, because we believe that search can always be improved. We are constantly working to provide you with more relevant results so that you find what you're looking for faster. To that end, we've added services such as personalized search, which tailors results for you if you're signed in to your Google account. As a business, Google generates the majority of its revenue by offering advertisers measurable, cost-effective, and highly relevant advertising, so that the ads are useful to the people who see them, as well as to the advertisers who run them. Hundreds of thousands of advertisers worldwide use our Google AdWords program to promote their products and services on the web. Advertisers bid in an open and competitive auction to have their ads appear alongside the search results for particular keywords. They can specify the geographic location and time of day for their ads to appear. As a result, people see ads that are so useful and relevant that they become a valuable form of information in their own right. Since we believe you should know when someone has paid to put a message in front of you, we distinguish ads from search results or other content on a page by labeling them as sponsored links or ads by Google. We don't sell ad placement in our search results, nor do we allow people to pay for a higher ranking there. In addition, hundreds of thousands of partners, from bloggers to major online publishers, participate in our Google AdSense program. This program delivers ads from our AdWords advertisers that are relevant to the content or search results on our partner sites. The AdSense program enables advertisers to extend the reach of their ad campaigns, improve partners' ability to generate revenue from their content, and delivers relevant ads for their users. In addition to our core AdWords and AdSense programs, we offer a number of other services to advertisers, including various advertising formats on YouTube, Google TV ads, as well as online ad serving and management services through DoubleClick. Finally, we aim to make advertising more measurable and efficient with free tools for advertisers, such as Google Analytics, Website Optimizer, Insights for Search, and Ad Planner. These tools help advertisers to analyze their campaigns, test them, and make them more efficient and effective. We build web applications, or apps, to make it simpler for people to share information and to get things done together. Gmail, Google Calendar, and Google Docs help people communicate and collaborate more easily, whether planning a wedding or building a business itinerary. The information is stored securely online, accessible from any device with a web connection. And because it lives online, it's easy to share with a group of collaborators. Everyone in the group can work on the same material at the same time, even if they're working in different buildings, countries, or continents. Today, we want the same ease of use Today, people want the same ease of use on their work computers that they have on their increasingly powerful personal computers. This is why we offer a business suite called Google Apps. It's powerful enough for large enterprises. We use it all across Google, in fact, but simple enough for mom-and-pop businesses, too. We're continually improving Google Apps, so you always have the latest version without worrying about maintenance or upgrades. And it's much less expensive than most traditional software. Google Apps is designed to fit the way people naturally live, work, and socialize, so they can focus on doing what they're doing rather than worrying about maintaining software. We built Google Apps from the ground up for today's connected world. Our infrastructure is designed to keep our users' data safe and secure to make our apps fast and responsive. We firmly believe that on the web, your data belongs to you and should be portable. When you use Google Apps, you can export your mail, documents, photos, or calendar entries whenever you like. You should be able to access all of Google's services wherever you are, even if you don't have a computer nearby. We make it easy for you to use your favorite Google product, from Google Maps to YouTube, right from your phone. As mobile devices become increasingly central to people's lives, we work hard to find new and better ways to help you get the information you need when you're on the go. We're also focused on enabling others to innovate in the mobile space. Working closely with the Open Handset Alliance, we developed Android, the world's first fully open platform that any mobile developer can use and any hardware manufacturer can install on a device. Android was built with the web in mind, and we believe it will help drive innovation so that more people can use better and cheaper mobile devices to access the Internet. A lot has changed since the first Google search engine appeared. We have grown and expanded our offerings from a single service to dozens, often in as many languages. We now have thousands of employees and offices around the world. But some things haven't changed: our dedication to our users and our belief in the possibilities of the Internet itself. And now we'll transition to learning about Google's terms of service. We'll talk first about your relationship with Google. Your use of Google's products, software, services, and websites, referred to collectively as services in this document, and excluding any services provided to you by Google under a separate written agreement, is subject to the terms of a legal agreement between you and Google. Google means Google Incorporated, whose principal place of business is at 1600 Amphitheater Parkway, Mountain View, California, 94043, United States. This document explains how the agreement is made up and sets out some of the terms of that agreement. Unless otherwise agreed in writing, your agreement with Google will always include, at a minimum, the terms and conditions set out in this document. These are referred to below as universal terms. Your agreement with Google will also include the terms of any legal notices applicable to the services in addition to the universal terms. All of these are referred to below as additional terms. Where additional terms apply to a service, these will be accessible to you to read either within or through your use of that service. The universal terms, together with the additional terms, form a legally binding agreement between you and Google in relation to your use of the services. It's important to take the time to read them carefully. Collectively, this legal agreement is referred to below as the terms. If there's any contradiction between what the additional terms say and what the universal terms say, then the additional terms shall take precedence in relation to that service. In order to use the services, you must first agree to the terms. You may not use the services if you do not accept the terms. You can accept the terms by clicking to accept or agree to the terms, where this option is made available to you by Google in the user interface for any service, or by actually using the services. In this case, you understand and agree that Google will treat your use of the service as acceptance of the terms from that point onwards. You may not use the services and may not accept the terms if you are not of legal age to form a binding contract with Google, or you are a person barred from receiving services under the laws of the United States or other countries, including the country in which you are a resident or from which you use the services. Before you continue, you should print off or save a local copy of the universal terms for your records. Where Google has provided you with a translation of the English language version of the terms, then you agree the translation is provided for your convenience only, and that the English language version of the terms will govern your relationship with Google. If there is any contradiction between what the English language version of the terms says and what a translation says, then the English language version shall take precedence. Google has subsidiaries and affiliated legal entities around the world. Sometimes these companies will be providing the services to you on behalf of Google itself. You acknowledge and agree that the subsidiaries and affiliates will be entitled to provide the service to you. Google is constantly innovating in order to provide the best possible experience for its users. You acknowledge and agree that the form and nature of the services which Google provides may change from time to time without prior notice to you. As part of this continuing innovation, you acknowledge and agree that Google may stop, permanently or temporarily, providing the services or any feature within the services to you or to users generally at Google's sole discretion without prior notice to you. You may stop using the service at any time. You do not need to specifically inform Google when you stop using the services. You acknowledge and agree that if Google disables access to your account, you may be prevented from accessing the services, your account details, or any files or other content which is contained in your account. You acknowledge and agree that while Google may not currently have a fixed upper limit on the number of transmissions you may send or receive through the services, or on any amount of storage space used for the provision of any service, such fixed upper limits may be set by Google at any time at Google's discretion. In order to access certain services, you may be required to provide information about yourself, such as identification or contact details, as part of the registration process for the service, or as part of your continued use of the services. You agree that any registration information you give to Google will always be accurate, correct, and up to date. You agree to use the services only for purposes that are permitted by the terms, any applicable law, regulation, or generally accepted practices or guidelines in the relevant jurisdictions, including any laws regarding the export of data or software to or from the United States or other relevant countries. You agree not to access or attempt to access any of the services by any means other than through the interface that is provided by Google, unless you have specifically been allowed to do so in a separate agreement with Google. You specifically agree not to access or attempt to access any of the services through any automated means, including use of scripts or web crawlers, and you shall ensure that you comply with the instructions set out in any robots files present on the services. You agree that you will not engage in any activity that interferes with or disrupts the services, or the servers or networks which are connected to the services. Unless you have been specifically permitted to do so in a separate agreement with Google, you agree that you will not reproduce, duplicate, copy, sell, trade, or resell the services for any purpose. You agree that you are solely responsible for, and that Google has no responsibility to you or any third party for, any breach of your obligations under the terms and for the consequences, including any loss or damage which Google may suffer, of any such breach. You agree and understand that you are responsible for maintaining the confidentiality of passwords associated with any account you use to access the services. Accordingly, you agree that you will be solely responsible to Google for all activities that occur under your account. If you become aware of any unauthorized access of your password or your account, you must agree to notify Google immediately. For information about Google's data protection practices, please read Google's privacy policy. This policy explains how Google treats your personal information and protects your privacy when you use the services. You agree to use your data in accordance with Google's privacy policies. You understand that all information, such as data files, written text, computer software, music, audio files, other sounds, photographs, videos, or other images which you may have access to as part of or through your use of the services are solely the responsibility of the person from which such content originated. All such information is referred to below as the content. You should be aware that content presented to you as part of the services, including but not limited to advertisements in the services and sponsored content within the services, may be protected by intellectual property rights which are owned by the sponsors or advertisers who provide the content to Google. You may not modify, rent, lease, loan, sell, distribute, or create derivative works based on this content unless you have been specifically told that you may do so by Google or by the owners of that content in a separate agreement. Google reserves the right but shall have no obligation to pre-screen, review, flag, filter, modify, refuse, or remove any or all content from any service. For some of the services, Google may provide tools to filter out explicit sexual content. These tools include the Safe Search preference settings. In addition, There are commercially available services and software to limit access to material that you may find objectionable. You understand that by using the services, you may be exposed to content that you find offensive. In this respect, you use the services at your own risk. You agree that you are solely responsible for, and that Google has no responsibility to you or any third party for, any content that you create, transmit, or display while using the services, and for the consequences of your actions, including any loss or damage which Google may suffer by doing so. You acknowledge and agree that Google, or Google's licensors, own all legal right, title, and interest to the services, including any intellectual property rights which subsist in the services. You further acknowledge that the services may contain information which is designated confidential by Google, and that you shall not disclose information without Google's prior written consent. Unless you have agreed otherwise in writing with Google, nothing in the terms of service gives you a right to use any of Google's trade names, trademarks, service marks, logos, domain names, and other distinctive brand features. If you have been given an explicit right to use any of these brand features in a separate written agreement with Google, then you agree that your use of such features shall be in compliance with that agreement. Any applicable provisions of the terms and Google's brand features use guidelines as updated from time to time. These guidelines can be viewed online. Other than the limited license set forth in Section 11, Google acknowledges and agrees that it obtains no right, title, or interest from you under these terms to any content that you submit, post, transmit, or display on or through the services, including any intellectual property rights which subsist in that content. I'm going to pause now because I believe it's been 15 minutes, and I'm going to check with our testing gentleman to see if we need to continue. One moment, please. Still standing by? All right, this concludes this portion of our audio test. We'll continue later on if we need to. Thank you, folks.